First thing I'm going to do is that. Barrettes are the go-to children's accessories that grown-ups can wear too. You can use a barrette to hold back hair from your face, to enhance and updo, or to pin your hair into intricate styles. To make sure your barrette stays put, work in a texturizing cream or mousse into your hair before inserting this stylish thing. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is comb castor oil into my hair. I don't want it to be too oily. Next thing I'm going to do is comb it back. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is put it in the tail. Okay, this one looks tight. And I guess, shoot, how does this work now? this has to go. Did this just break? I think this thing just broke. I got it at the freaking 99-cent store. What the hell? It's a silver one. It goes in maybe, and then what? This isn't gonna work. I'm not gonna fuck with it. Fuck barrettes. Unless I'm doing it wrong. It doesn't seem like. I don't know. It's gonna work. It's not gonna work with my hair, I guess. So. I will. I'll just rock this one here. That was a waste of $1. Alright, I'm inside, so I'm going to take off my scarf. Put my hat away. What I got to do is use nutritional yeast. So I did get the fortified version. We've been talking about non-fortified nutritional yeast being a more natural food because if you look at the label, right here. We have inactive nutritional yeast, dried yeast, okay? It doesn't say Saccharomyces cerevisiae on this one. But then it has niacin, vitamin B3, pyridoxine hydrochloride, vitamin B6, riboflavin, vitamin B2, thiamine hydrochloride, vitamin B1, folic acid, and vitamin B12. These are synthetic vitamins. They're synthesized from coal tar, from what I've been taught. So I ordered the plain non-fortified version, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use this batch. I probably shouldn't, but if we look at my cheese, what you're going to see is an oil. Oil through it. So here's what I'm going to do. Just going to put this here for a second. Okay, now take a spatula. I know I have one somewhere. There you go. Okay. I'm gonna scoop this one. What the hell? Okay. Okay. Okay, so now what's that? Let's see how it came out. But okay. Oh, I also want to make dino scales. Shoot. I might postpone the event till next Sunday because I'm supposed to sell my cheese at the health food store next door. Have like a tasting from 12 to 3 or something. The guy said it was cool, so I'll just have to. I don't know if I'm ready for tomorrow. Just I gotta make more cheese, and then I gotta make it with the unfortified Saccharomyces cerevisiae. I think I'm just gonna wrap this like a Christmas present. What the hell? Fucking wax paper sucks for folding. Jesus. Can't do this any easier. Just like 1, 2. Thank you. Bag old crunchy freaking plastic wrap. Alright, that's good enough. No, I don't think I'm gonna sell this, so let me just do tape instead of worrying about a label. Loose as fuck. Alright, whatever. This one I made and packaged, but it doesn't have the nutritional yeast on it. So I'm gonna repackage. Yeah. Oh, got him. Okay. Now this one I'm gonna sample. Okay, so this cheese I can give to somebody. Actually, I'm gonna have to eat this one too because it's got the fucking chemical yeast on it. Shit. Oh well. I'm taking one for the team. Taking one for the team on this one, folks. Leave this out to cut the cheese. Womp womp. And then do like this. And this here. Suito out. What's up, Jack Attack? I just cut the cheese, guys. Joe Beer. So what happened was I live on a street here. Hold on, I'll pick you up in a second. I live on a street here, and on the corner, on the corner of my side, there's the auto body shop. Right across the street, on the other side, so that the corner of the other side is a health food store. And I've gone there with my power sushi, and I kind of set up a table and gave samples out and stuff like that. This time I'm going with my cheese here. I was gonna go tomorrow, but I'm gonna do it next Sunday and just take this week to prepare and make as many cheeses as I can. So I'm not gonna make cheese tonight because I have to get the good nutritional yeast. But I have, this many pumpkin seeds, which is making a lot of cheese. You probably get to at least 10 cheeses out of that. At least. Way more than that. So if I'm selling them for 20 for one of these, that's $200. I could use that money to get more pumpkin seeds. But I'm thinking my brother might actually buy the pumpkin seeds because he wants to go into business. So this is the probably the final recipe. Now this knife is actually decently sharp, so you might be able to see how good this cheese cuts here. Try to get you right on top of it. Now, is there supposed to be a fork? Okay. Alright. It's not super oh, fucking hell. What the fuck? Pac-Man. Wonder if I use my porcelain knife. Ooh. That thing is sharper than a motherfucker. Okay, now the taste test. Actually, before I do that, let me take a picture. This is for Instagram. cheese in the foreground. Do like this. Okay. That's God saying you took enough pictures. Here we go. Taste test. I gotta cut them thinner. Let's try this again. Because I don't want somebody taste testing it and being like, their whole fucking, like, if you have too much peanut butter or if you have too much almond butter. Come on, man. You're making me change the shape now? No, I'm sticking with a cheese wheel. I've never seen a cheese ball. I've seen mozzarella balls. As far as the package goes, what I see for gourmet cheese is like a wax covered wheel. That's gourmet cheese. Yeah, Jack Attack. It's a wax covered wheel. This I got though for chocolate. Apparently you pour the chocolate in here, put it in the fridge or whatever to mold, and then this if you've ever seen my channel when I made the white chocolate, I was trying to make white chocolate. The recipe is really hard to do, and I'll go back to it and I'll figure it out somehow. But it just so happened to be the dino cheese here. That's my first, my second recipe. My first recipe was the dino scales, so I guess that makes sense. But this, I had an idea for white chocolate balls, and you see how big they are. I wanted to sell them, so if you open this up, this is going to be the size of the chocolate balls, and then I'm going to sell them two because they're so big. When you buy, say it's $10, you get two white chocolate balls, and they come in a sack. Like when you go to a store, and sometimes maybe you've seen like a sack of avocados. It comes in like a little net bag, or any kind of bag of candy that they sell in the store on the rack. So the packaging would be these individually, like a Hershey Kiss has that foil wrap around it. So I'd have these two, because white chocolate, it's not perfectly white, and then the other ingredients I add, it makes it a little darker. So I'll probably wrap it in a white kind of a foil, like a Hershey Kiss. So when you open up the sack, the balls will be white because of the wrapping on the outside. But then the sack, it's two balls in the sack, and it's Master Lukey's white chocolate balls. And I was going to have, my idea was to have like a super hot vegan chick. Because that's like the thing now with the Instagram models. They're like, they got like full sleeve tattoos and fake boobs, and they go to Burning Man, and um, they're Instagram models, so they got money. One of them I saw, she's in California. She was using her Instagram modeling money to make a vegan taco joint. Now, I'm not vegan because I eat honey, but I can make a vegan recipe that's Life Food certified. So I can, sell them. And then she'd be like, "Oh, Master Lukey, your white chocolate balls. I need a sack. I need a sack of Master Lukey's white chocolate balls in my mouth." And then she eats them and they're delicious. Oh, yeah. So speaking of, my girl likes a mustache for some reason. And I grew it starting in November for Men's Health Month. And then she told me to do the V for Vendetta. So So it's got to be from here, and then it's got to curl up at the end. And I got, mousse that I put in there. So I got to shave all this. I already did my eyebrows today. That took a while. And then I got to shave all this. Jack Attack wants to know if I touched on UFC fighter Irwin Rivera. Lost his last fight. He's 10-6. Okay. So the code words here is apparently what they say is that they woke up to him stabbing them. And he said it was because he was told to by a higher power. Higher power. I was just watching a video about it this morning. Here. So what I did was I typed in, I think leaky gut into YouTube. and sorted it by
Okay, hi everyone.
sorted it by date. So this is January 21st. Uh, Apparently, this guy is a doctor. But before I get into that, um, because I'm going to shave, and then as I'm shaving, we'll listen to this, and then I'll pause it and just address what this doctor is saying. I believe he's a doctor. Um, I'll address what he's saying in terms of the truth that I know from Dr. Jubb. First of all, let me just talk about the UFC guy. I got a back step here. Okay. So, somebody who talks to a higher power is uh, connecting to the ether. Um, I believe that people can connect to the ether, which is where all of consciousness comes from. So, Erwin Rivera is what's the word they use here again? Told to him by higher power. So he's hearing things. He's being spoken to, and those messages they can become twisted, and it's like a crystal that can bend light, or it's like the game telephone, where there is a connection of all consciousness. However, the more toxicity that a person has energetically, and the more their body is polluted and not functioning properly, the message is going to be distorted, um, because as a man, I know that women are evil, and men do evil things, but the male energy is the reason why God exists in this world. The feminine energy is the spirit world. This is the physical world. This is good. The spirit world is the feminine. That's evil. Um, Even though women can produce and nurture a child, that can only happen because of a man. The word womb man, it means a man that can um, carry a child. This is my belief. Okay. Um, when guys get together, you have a team, and the team works together to accomplish a goal. That's not a feminine trait. His two sisters were probably very toxic, very mean, manipulative. They may be on drugs. They most certainly are on drugs of the food variety. And this is in, where the hell is Boynton Beach? Let me just look that up real quick. Florida. Okay. So they're eating rice and beans and pork. Florida's a big cocaine and meth area. So him and his sisters may be on drugs. I'm just saying, even if they're not, Okay, women are evil. They're definitely on rice, beans, and beef, and pork and chicken. And the um the research, the study that I've done into the most modern research here. Um, Let me go back to YouTube so I can play it. Uh, it's all showing that the brain upstairs is affected by the gut. And he's got traumatic brain injury from fighting. He's got a gut condition from grains, which cause hallucination. Did you know LSD comes from the fungus of rye, which is a grain? Rye is a grain, and there's a mold that breaks down into, and the guy's going to talk about it in this video. The forgot the word that he uses, metabolic product or something. It's basically the excrement of the mold. That is where they get LSD from. So grains do cause hallucination. You know, you get people that believe that Jesus is somewhere, you know, and it's like, oh, I talked to Jesus, or God is in the Eucharist, or God is not in each person, you know, God's in heaven somewhere, and I'm going to go be with him in heaven when I die. My dad believes that. You know, that's a hallucination. There's no you know, real reason other than hope that somebody could believe that. But that comes from a belief that's been filtered down through time by people who were toxic themselves. To think that God's not in each of us, it's somewhere else, you know. But it's a way of speaking to kind of get a message across. Anyway, that's my take on Erwin Rivera. He's hallucinating and he's violent because of two things. The primary thing would be the the food condition that's in his gut and that's affecting his brain. Um, without without the evidence, I can't say that it's has to do with drugs. Although I would probably, you know, I would probably bet that's something to do with it. There's the relationship of male to female and sisters ganging together to manipulate him, and then the food kind of twists that to make him think darkly, and like I said, maybe the drugs. But then you also have the brain trauma, and that's going to exacerbate everything. I do have brain trauma, but I was never physically violent to anybody. I just emotionally tried to kill them with my words. And I still do that. I still think that way. And I've said things, you know. I've said things because deep inside, I want that person to die. For example, my parents. So I hung up on my mom today. I said, you know, are you up? I texted her. She said, yeah. I called her. I said, is there visitation today? She says, no. You got everyone sick. Dad and I are sick. You know, your ex-wife, she tested positive. Your kids tested positive. You got everybody sick. She's blaming me. Um, so because I had a cough on Christmas, um, and the my you know, my theory, which is the truth of terrain theory as opposed to germ theory, is that my body is doing what it can to heal itself. That's why I got sick. It was a message for me to do fasting, and I stopped coughing once I emptied myself out and I fasted. I stopped coughing within 3 to 5 days. So The first 2 days I was coughing. The third day I was still coughing, but not as much. And then the fourth day and the fifth day was like I would cough here and there. And then since then, it's gotten down to me having to clear my throat. See, it's not really much there right now, but after a while it will build up, and I'll go to try to get a piece of phlegm. And it's, that's getting less and less. And this is a detox that my body's going through in my training and, my system. But my mom, she eats junk. She told me a long time ago, because I pleaded with her. I said, you want me to be successful, and you're also on Weight Watchers, but I can um, give you the real healing that Weight Watchers won't, because she's been on Weight Watchers for like 20 or 30 years, and she's gotten fatter, way fatter. And she looks like a ball of cheese because she eats cheese. And um, she's on medications now for blood pressure, which is caused by eating animal products. And, she told me she'd rather die than change. And my dad says that he wishes I was dead. A while ago, he said he would have rather I joined the military and died than, live the life that I'm living, because they don't agree with my lifestyle, because, I don't have a job, and I'm a financial burden on people, and I'm not financially responsible like I should be, because I've dedicated everything to my brand, which is a long shot, and it's a work of art that traditionally the artist doesn't get discovered until after they die. But in the modern understanding that I have, death is actually a metaphor for sales and becoming corporate. So by me dying, I'm, turning into a brand. But my brand is actually health. So I'm physically able to keep on fighting for what I believe in, and try to monetize that through the League of Champions and, health food that can spin off of that. But it all depends on basically me creating something that doesn't exist yet. There's things that are like it. There's Taekwondo in the Olympics. There's you know pro wrestling. Ribbit. There's UFC, of course. And then my sparring league is kind of a combination of all those things. But there's nothing exactly like what I'm trying to build. So, my dad's not in the martial arts. He doesn't understand what it means um, to fight as a lifestyle. Like, he's military. They train you to kill, and then that's how you win. But to fight as a lifestyle means that the fight never ends. You can't win and then it be over. You win by keep on going and getting a higher and higher score. It's like you don't go to the gym and then you get strong and then you stop. It's like you go to the gym, you work out. Every time you try to push yourself further and further. And it's not something that you ever recover from fully, because you're breaking yourself down, and that's the actual reason why you're doing what you're doing, is to break yourself down so that you can come back stronger. So it's a learning process for me as well, that I basically have to um, be beaten. everything that's happening with my parents and my kids, and when I fight people, I have to be able to take damage. Not damage, but I don't know the damage isn't the word, but I have to take I have to take the hits. What is it like when you get hit with something? It's like a bombardment. I'm not injured, but it hurts. Yeah, I'm gonna stay strong, Jay, because of the nutrition aspect. That's what gives me the ability to heal from these attacks. By fasting, I'm increasing human growth hormone, and I'm a natural athlete, so that's the only way that I could do what I'm doing. Anyway, I don't think there's anything else I can really say about Erwin Rivera. He's in an institution now, so what you're going to hear on this video, what the guy first says is there's two schools of thought as far as brain health goes. One is what's currently being practiced is actually outdated, which is thinking that there's a condition in the brain and then put the people on drugs. So Irwin, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for him that he's he's in a jail now in himself. And I've been to jail for 8 days. It was the honest to God worst experience of my life. I had a flashback the other day and I just thought of how fucking horrible to not be able to do anything, and the time going by so slowly and just sitting there and not being able to be free and just having to sit there and just, oh my God, I was only in for 8 days, but it broke me. I said, Dad, get me out of here. I'll do whatever you want. And I lived with my dad after that, and I was on a curfew and everything. So, without going too much into it, I did think about what I said about my dad yesterday, about him not never being my friend, and that's true. I do have to figure out a way to uh, become successful to show him that what he's done in his life to support me um, was worth it. Not for him, but for me, because we're supposed to stand on the shoulders of giants, and our parents, if they're quality, if they're healthy, they're supposed to make um, the survival of the human race, more secure. So I understand why, in his eyes, I'm a failure, and in my mom's eyes, I'm a failure now because I'm not financially responsible. So it's like, I'm not securing the future yet. Like Jay says, I'm working towards something that's going to better mankind. So I'm keeping the faith. I'm staying strong. I'm going to continue to fight regardless. But, you know, they're doing a study now for UFC. They gave 1 million so far, $1 million to study the effects of brain injury. 1 million. Think of how much money the UFC makes. They don't want to find out how to fix fucking brain injury because that's their business. They know what's the reason. Hold on, I think my girlfriend's texting me. She wants to come over. What you doing? Um, I'm gonna shave. Okay. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shave. So I heat up the water. And just make a little space here. I don't feel like doing dishes right now. But, okay. And okay. What I learned was this is only good if I'm shaving my whole face, because it's opaque, it's white. This is the clear shave gel, and then I can see where I gotta, do my thing. Alright. Put the hot water in here. I'll bring it over here. Shit. I need a light though, so you can see. This cord doesn't reach all the way there. Okay. Let me see if I can stretch this here. Okay. That's good, right? Okay. So, I'm just eating this cheese. I shouldn't. Okay. Hot water. Razor. Anon, do I still roll in the match from time to time? Almost every day, man. Go back about 2 streams, you'll see me sparring a couple of teenagers last night. I'm trying to build the Underground Fight Club on Friday nights at 8 o'clock. First time I sparred in a while. My my League of Champions is hopefully going to take me around the world, and you're going to see me spar with a lot of different people. I know a few MMA YouTubers that want to get together to duke it out. Probably all talk, though. Well, I really would like to fight. You know, of course, when I'm talking about fighting, I'm talking about my system. Not anybody, not any head contact or anything like that. But I really want to fight guys like MMA Shredded and who's that other guy? Sean Fagan. Jake Paul. I want to fight all those guys. And anybody who, you know, wants to do MMA without the brain injury. Fight tips, yeah. There's MMA Shredded, there's Fight Tips. There's Jesse Enkamp. He's a karate guy, but he does MMA. Jesse Enkamp, I think his channel is called Jesse Enkamp, but talks about the history of karate, and he does some technical stuff, some technique. Jesse's brother is in Belt. Oh, okay, cool. So if you go back a couple of my streams, you could see me sparring, but it's you know, it's just with my phone, so it could be a better. Oliver Enkamp, right on. Too much cheese today. My belly big. RO. Nah, I don't really talk to anybody from UFC. You know? My coach Ray Longo, he told me, I wish you the best, but I can't really come with you on this journey. This vision was given to me, you know? It's not something that anybody else is going to work towards, so. Alright. I might not be able to read chat, or actually no, I can see. There we go. So like I said, I'm doing the, oh shit, this fucking thing shot fast. Hope I don't shoot fast. Hey-oh! This isn't clear though, I don't know what the fuck. Yeah, you know, my ex-girlfriend, I believe she was MK Ultra, sent to me to be a beard, which, in this type of, terminology, it has to do with, Hollywood, and me, you know, if all goes according to plan, becoming a celebrity. So I believe that she was sent to be a beard, which is a female actress, is an actress that's, you know, basically hired or whatever, is chosen to be the counterpart to a male actor who's gay in real life. So back then, when this started happening, you know, the male star, if he was gay, he wouldn't be able to be sold to the public, you know, as a star because the values were different. So they hired this woman to be his beard, and they were supposedly a couple, but then like the industry, the people knew that they weren't really. Um, so my ex-girlfriend, who used to be on my channel, she's very good looking, and I believe that she was MK. Um, you know, but the new girl, I think she's CIA, because she's not on she doesn't get on camera. So she told me to do the V for Vendetta mustache because I'm like kind of like creating an uprising in the MMA community, you know, against the establishment. So they want me to look the role. I'm not trying to tell you something. I'm telling you about my belief, you know, that um, I've been I wouldn't say selected because I chose this life, but the benevolent Illuminati sees the benefit of Master Luki, how profitable the brand could be, and how it can literally take over. They could have control over the whole world under my brand if if the science is validated about brain injury, and we make football illegal, we make boxing illegal, we make pro wrestling illegal because you can't be making money and by putting people in danger. That's not right. You can't advertise cigarettes to kids, and then in the future with Master Luki brand, junk food is going to be illegal to manufacture. You know, we can't say, "Oh, you're not allowed to eat junk food," but we can say that corporations can't make money by creating a product that's killing people. That's not right. Give me a second. I can't talk and do this, otherwise I'm gonna cut my face. I gotta keep the blade up again in the hot water. So that's what I believe. I'm basically the chosen one. I want to make a new Olympics with Master Luki brand. MMA Olympics, Battle of the Bands, Dance Battle, Healthy Chef Battle. The greatest show of all time. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm not hurting anybody. And my whole thing is to not hurt people, to help people. So if I ain't hurting anybody, I can say whatever the hell I want. And if you don't believe I'm the chosen one, we'll just have to see about that. Because I'm going for it. Okay. Oh, the shaving cream kind of dries up. I'm gonna put it on again. Took me so long to do my eyebrows today. Holy. It was like a wolf man. Oh, there it is, my first cut. Hold on, I see you in the chat. Give me a second. Shout out to David Jubb. Hell yeah. Oh, you know what? Let me put on that audio. This is not Jubb, but I'll play the part of Jubb in response to this guy.
Today's topic is going to be on the role of gut brain function and depression and motivation. This is a topic that seems to be very interesting for a lot of people, how the gut impacts the brain. And what I want to do is really go over some of the mechanisms of depression and go over some of the mechanisms related to how the gut functions and how they interrelate with each other. And hopefully we can clear up some of these mechanisms. Now, some information to share with you. And by the way, thank you for everyone for joining us in 2021. We have 2 new online health programs that we're launching in the next month. One's called the Gut Health Solving the Puzzle program, which I go through a step-by-step approach, really talking about how to go through and figure out what's going on with your gut. And we have another one called the Food Sensitivity Solving the Puzzle program, where I really try to clarify all the mechanisms that are involved with food sensitivity and food sensitivity testing, and why people develop food sensitivities, the difference between one type of food sensitivity test versus another, because these are just common areas of confusion. So if you want to learn more about our 2 online programs we're launching in this month, please go to Dr. K News, and there's a link where you can.
All right, Dr. K News. Now, first of all, guys, he said it right off the bat. This is for profit. He's a doctor, and the doctor of today has become a fucking online program seller. Learn how to fucking advertise on Instagram. You can make $10,000 a month from home. This is medicine now, apparently. Now, Dr. K, he's fat. He's not an athlete. He's got a fat face. And no offense if you have a fat face. I'm just saying, in terms of health, I can tell that if you take off his shirt, there's going to be tits and there's not going to be a six pack. He's going to have swollen nipples. He's got sagging skin in his face. He's going to have big swollen nipples from gynecomastia and tits and a fucking belly that hangs over. And I could see that just by looking at his face. I can tell how the rest of his body looks. Okay? There's a big belly and there's tits and there's fat everywhere. Because he himself, he's going to talk about it later, doesn't know what the fuck to do. They can only tell you what not to do. They can only say, well, we'll go into it. I just wanted to show this to you because this is the most current YouTube video. It is by a doctor, so you can find some elements. It's like they're like guideposts. They're like signposts in as far as the street goes. They can find the signpost, but they don't actually know where they're going. But I can use their signpost to tell us where to go.
Can get information about the courses, and I think for the initial promotion, if you sign up for the gut health one, then you get the food sensitivity course for free as a way to really get people excited about the programs. But let's talk about today's topic, and today's topic is really about how gut function really impacts depression and motivation. So in order to talk about that, let me get my camera straight here. So in order to talk about that, I really have to really explain the models of depression first. So when you look at the current neuropsychiatry literature, what you see in that is really two models of depression. One model of depression is really based on neurotransmitters being imbalanced, where you have something like serotonin off, or dopamine off, or epinephrine, and this is where you have serotonin reuptake inhibitors and tricyclic antidepressants.
Drugs.
So you have very different classes of medications that are there to address depression from a neurotransmitter imbalance point of view. And that model seems to be becoming more and more outdated as time goes on. And what they're really finding is that one of the major models of depression is really the inflammatory model of depression, where inflammation really shuts down neuron function and disrupts neurochemical imbalances. And what they're finding is that some of these medications that were actually theoretically trying to balance out neurotransmitters, their impact is really more on the inflammatory pathway than they realized before. And that's why some people are noticing benefits with it. But most of the research coming right now in the neuropsychiatry world of depression is really focused on the inflammatory model of depression, also known as the cytokine model of depression, where they're really looking at how inflammation in the brain really starts to shut down mood and impact neurochemicals. So, and that has a direct link with how the gut can impact the brain and how gut function can impact depression and mood. Now, another part of this discussion today is really on motivation. And when you look at motivation is very characteristic of an area of your brain called the prefrontal cortex working. And your prefrontal cortex is involved with what's called executive function, like planning and organizing and figuring out tasks and being goal-driven and motivated, and then initiating. These are all aspects of the prefrontal cortex. And these are highly driven by dopamine pathways. Now, there's mechanisms in the gut that can cause inflammation in the brain, and there's mechanisms in the gut that can really throw off these dopamine pathways, and this is why there's been a lot of research and understanding recently of how gut functions impacts things like motivation, depression, and just overall brain function and mood. So I think all of us have had experiences where we've eaten certain meals and our brain function has changed, or maybe you've eaten too much after like a Thanksgiving or a celebration, and then you had nightmares that night, or sometimes you may know there's certain foods you eat, as soon as you eat them, that you may get brain fog, I can't think. The most common ones are things like gluten and dairy. But we know that there's mechanisms involved with gut function and brain function that we've probably all have experienced to some degree. So what is the research really showing about these topics? Well, I think the key thing is that what we're really understanding is that, first of all, there is absolutely an intimate relationship between the gut and the brain. Now, I used to teach human brain dissection for 3 years, and I taught at Pasteur University. And one of the things we would do before the semester started is we would extract the brains out, and we would have to cut the skull and then pull the brain out, and then have this for the rest of the semester for brain dissection. But before we did that, the classes semesters before, they would have a general human dissection course of the human body, where they would open up the abdomen. And one of the things that I always had my students do before we extracted the brains out was just to look at the brain stem as it goes into the neck. When you look at the brain stem, you can see pathways from the brain stem right into the gut through what's called the vagus nerve. So the pathways to the gut and brain anatomically are very, very much connected to each other. They're not separate. And you can actually, I would have my patients my students put their hands on the brainstem, follow out the lower brainstem out into the vagus nerve, and then the vagus nerve would just branch into all the different connections in the small intestine, large intestine, and into the part of the gastrointestinal tract called the enteric nervous system, which sometimes people call the second brain, where you have all this neurological connectivity of the gut. And those neurons in the gut are there to activate muscle contraction and gallbladder contraction, and to activate what are called autonomic pathways to release digestive enzymes, and neurological pathways to stimulate blood flow and blood vessel constriction and so forth. And that vagal pathway is one pathway how the brain communicates with the gut, and how the gut communicates with the brain. And this is what's called a canalized pathway. So we know that information is going back and forth bidirectionally from the vagus nerve, from the brain to the gut, and from the gut to the brain. And these are neurochemical signals, and these neurochemical signals impact from the brain to the gut, how the gut manages constriction of muscles to move food, like enzyme release and so forth. But the other way around is there seems to be some impacts from this neurochemical pathways up from the gut, where some studies are now showing impact mood and general brain function and appetite. And there's pathways, there's neuropeptides, for example, in the gut. One of them is called ghrelin.
Okay, so the what we just learned is that the brain and the gut, when he says connected, it's really misleading, because what he should say is that it's the same tissue that goes through the whole thing. When he's saying it's connected, it's misleading, because when you have a connection, it's two different things. But he just said it's not two different things. It's one tissue that goes from the brain all the way to the gut. When the brain stem goes into the neck, it's still the same tissue. And they call it something different. They call it the vagus nerve. And then when it gets down into the gut, they call it the enteric nervous system. But it's the same tissue that the brain is. It's just stretched out, in nerves and shit. So that's why they can communicate, and even me saying that is not correct thinking, because it's not they. There's no two things. That's why the brain is in the gut. And that's where all the neurotransmitters are made that eventually get up here. And that's the research of Dr. David Jubb that he calls brain of the gut. You can look that up on YouTube.
ghrelin, and gut bacteria release ghrelin. And then ghrelin goes up the vagal pathways and activates areas of the brain called the hypothalamus to regulate our appetite. And then there could be disruption in gut bacteria that can, for example, change our appetite and also our mood in relation to our appetite. So we know that there are intimate connections between the brain and the gut anatomically through the vagus nerve bidirectional.
And then what he was saying, which I forgot to mention, because the brain of the gut can cause um, muscle contractions and blood flow, changes in blood flow to areas up here. That's how um, different psychiatric conditions arise from blood areas, from different levels of blood flow to areas of the brain.
Actually, through these different neurochemical signals. Now, we also know that there's what they call non-canalized pathways, and non-canalized pathways are like these neurochemical pathways. So our gut bacteria produces all these different chemicals, neuropeptides, and neurotransmitters, and then these gut bacteria release these compounds and these neurochemicals into our bloodstream, and these pathways make their way into the brain, and then the brain has cells which respond to them. So we also know that there's, in addition to the vagal pathways, that there's neurochemical pathways in which the gut corresponds to the brain. And then we know that these neurochemical pathways have a different influence if the blood-brain barrier is intact or if the blood-brain barrier is breached. So if you kind of really break it down and we look at this gut-brain relationship and we look at how the gut can impact brain function, we know that as far as pathways goes, there's a vagus nerve that goes back and forth between the gut and the brain where you can have communication. There are bacteria in the gut that release neurotransmitters, proteins called cytokines, gut peptides that get into the bloodstream that can get to the brain. And some of those peptides can get to the brain under healthy normal circumstances with a blood-brain barrier, which keeps large particles out intact because they can cross the healthy blood-brain barrier, some of these neurochemicals. Other times the blood-brain barrier is breached with these neurochemicals, and adverse bacteria byproducts can actually get into the brain. So those are the communication pathways, right? Now, so what have researchers found? What's the latest in the world of the gut-brain research? Well, some really exciting things that have come out, which I think all of us that practice functional medicine have always recognized, but it's really nice to see these mechanisms investigated and really identified in the literature. And one of them is, for example, the role of gut inflammation and brain inflammation. So there are now multiple studies that have clearly found that for patients that have any kind of inflammatory bowel condition, whether it's celiac disease, whether it's any kind of inflammatory like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or whether they have something like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, which is a severe inflammatory autoimmune bowel disease, when there's a history of a chronic inflammatory bowel disease with a group of individuals, when they compare them to individuals that don't have these inflammatory bowel conditions, they can see a very clear statistically significant change in their brain related to brain inflammation, what are called white matter hyperintensities, meaning that when they take a group of people that have gut inflammation and they do MRIs of the brain, they see that their brain has inflammation and scarring as measured by what are called white matter hyperintensities, which are areas of myelin injury, compared to people that don't have them. And then the numbers are dramatic. There's a significant degree of risk for having brain inflammation when you have gut inflammation. So numerous papers like that have been published in the literature, and more and more keep supporting the same pathway. And what we're finding is that there is very clear indication that when the gut is on fire, that the brain is on fire. Now, so that's been in the studies where they looked at MRI findings in people who have inflammatory bowel disease. Now, there's also studies that have been done by looking at the actual messenger pathways, what's happening in the gut and what's happening in the brain. And what they're finding is that there are cells in the brain called neuroglial cells, and these neuroglial cells can get activated by different pathways in the gut. And neuroglial cells are cells in the brain that are basically the immune cells of the brain, and they create inflammation in the brain. So what they're finding is that various physiological mechanisms that are happening in the gut can turn on these microglial or neuroglial cells in the brain that then create brain inflammation. And if you remember, brain inflammation is then going to disrupt neurotransmitter pathways and lead into depression, the so-called cytokine model of depression. And if that inflammation, depression hits the frontal lobe and hits dopamine pathways, then people lose their motivation and drive as well. So this is also why when someone's constantly on a pro-inflammatory diet, like they're eating foods that they're sensitive to. Maybe it's milk, maybe it's gluten, maybe they just eat fast food all the time. Whatever the scenario is, that the constant inflammatory cascade that's taking place in the gut because of the immune reactions to specific food proteins may be really impacting their glial cells and turning on inflammation in the brain. And we know that the immediate effect of inflammation in the brain is going to be depression, motivation issues, and another key feature is basically a loss of endurance for brain function. So these inflammatory responses in the brain, they also shut down what are called mitochondria. These are the energy powerhouses of cells, and then neurons in the brain lose their endurance. So what happens over time is that when people start to get gut inflammation, that gut inflammatory cascade through neurochemical pathways, through the vagus, through inflammatory chemical releases in the gut, turn on these neuroglial cells. These neuroglial cells then create an inflammatory response in the brain. This disrupts neurotransmitters, which then impact mood, but it also causes inflammation, which just impairs normal neurochemical signaling. And then as this inflammation goes on, the energy powerhouses of the cells start to shut down and the brain loses endurance. So another key feature of a gut on fire that's causing a brain on fire leading to depression motivation is the person starts to have very little brain endurance. So they can't drive as long as they used to. They can't focus and concentrate as long as they used to. They may not be able to finish an entire chapter of a book anymore. And those are signs that the energy production pathways in the brain are starting to shut down. And this is very common when there's an inflammatory response in the brain. So we know that that's one of the clinical presentations. So as a clinician, when I see a patient come in and tell me that they have depression, they can't focus, they can't concentrate, their brain function's down, and they usually say, I'm tired all the time. When they say they're tired all the time, it really ends up being that anytime they use their brain, it shuts down on them, that it's really more brain fatigue than anything else. You always want to suspect that there's an inflammatory response in the brain when you hear those things as a clinician. And then as a clinician, one of the major drivers of brain inflammation is gut inflammation. So then you want to look at their diet and see what happens. And for some people, there's dramatic changes, sometimes just going on a gluten dairy-free diet or making some steps to start to heal a leaky gut pattern. And those mechanisms may be the first time they've actually responded to anything impacting their brain function, their endurance, their energy levels, and their depression. And this is a very real mechanism. I think everyone who practices functional medicine sees it day in and day out. And people that have an inflammatory responses in the brain, especially coming from the gut, they tend to be the patients that do not respond to a serotonin reuptake inhibitor or a tricyclic antidepressant because those mechanisms...
It doesn't work!
Those medications don't have the direct effect on dampening their neuroglial inflammation as if they were just to get to the root of the problem, which is their inflammatory response overall. They may have some benefits initially, but as the inflammation gets worse and worse, they lose their benefits as well. So those are the common things that we see in the clinical world with people that have this gut on fire, brain on fire pattern. Now, there's also some very other interesting things that have come out in the literature. One of them is when there is leaky gut, when the tight junctions of the gut open up from inflammatory responses, and food particles can cross, that can really impact depression and major mood disorders. But furthermore, when the gut barrier breaks down, the blood-brain barrier breaks down. And the blood-brain barrier is a pathway that keeps things out of the brain, so these microglial cells aren't activated all the time. So our brain has something called the blood-brain barrier, which are what are called astroglial cells that are tightly put together against what are called endothelial cells, which are blood vessels to keep things out of the brain. And the blood-brain barrier can also become breached. And when the blood-brain barrier becomes breached, particles that shouldn't get into the brain, like different viruses, bacteria, pollutants, chemicals we have in our body, from either breathing it in or getting chemicals exposed to us from pesticide-sprayed food or whatever the source may be, can now cross into the brain. And when those chemicals can cross into the brain because the blood-brain barrier is breached, these glial cells turn on and we get this inflammatory cascade in the brain. But one of the connections between the gut and the brain is that when there's a leaky gut pattern, there's also a leaky blood-brain barrier. So they're finding that when you have one, you typically have the other. We actually published a study on this last year. We published it in the International Journal of Molecular Science, where we took 300 patients that have Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, and we measured their tight junction protein markers, and we measured the blood-brain barrier markers, and we found a significant risk for those that had inflammatory bowel disease, having blood-brain permeability, if they have leaky gut, compared to people that subjects in our study that didn't have them. And we were able to publish that. Other researchers have found other mechanisms related to that. But the key thing that keeps showing up in the literature is that when you have a leaky blood-brain barrier, a leaky gut barrier, you also have a leaky blood-brain barrier. And when you have a leaky blood-brain barrier, you have different types of chemicals like pollutants and different proteins that can then get into the brain. They trail on the glial cells, and you have this inflammatory cascade in the brain. I can tell you, as a clinician who measures blood-brain barrier permeability with lab tests, we use something called S100B, a blood-brain barrier protein, aquaporin. These markers are routine markers to measure blood-brain barrier integrity. When you see these off, a lot of times you can't get those to become normal until you fix a leaky gut. So there's definite connections between having to fix a leaky gut to heal a blood-brain barrier, so you can actually decrease the inflammatory cascade that's happening within an individual's brain. And these mechanisms that are involved with gut inflammation or leaky gut and leaky blood-brain barrier are also the identical mechanisms that cause inflammation in the brain that leads into neurodegenerative diseases. So it's really a big deal. So it's not just about the depression and motivation issues, but if you have chronic depression, chronic motivation, and you have brain fatigue issues, it really is a sign that you're having these inflammatory cascades that are happening in your brain, which is going to, in the long run, really support a neurodegenerative mechanism, which means your brain's going to atrophy, has a greater risk of having atrophy and degeneration, because these mechanisms of inflammation promote all types of neurodegenerative diseases, most common one being Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. So, you really want to always look at the gut. I think as time goes on,
This is as straight as I'm going to get it.
People that have major depression and motivation issues are going to be treated at the gut level, probably first, because we know that the major inflammatory model for brain is inflammation and depression. Is an inflammatory one. And the major cause of brain inflammation is typically gut inflammation. And when those things start to happen more commonly, I think we're going to have significant changes in the outcomes of people that are suffering from depression. Now, there's also, outside of the inflammatory model of depression and the leaky gut, leaky blood-brain barrier models of depression, there's a totally different model of gut-brain pathways impacting depression that involves gut peptides that control blood sugar regulation. So what they're also finding is that your diet will impact the population of bacteria in your gut, and the population of bacteria in your gut produce what are called peptides and polysaccharides. And these polysaccharides and peptides have an impact in controlling your blood sugar response, your insulin response. So there's a lot of research now that is showing that the diversity of your gut bacteria and your diet changes your gastrointestinal microbiome environment, and changes in the gastrointestinal microbiome have major impacts on insulin receptors, which control how your body responds to blood sugar spikes when you eat food. And these most studied one is a gut peptide called GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1. And what they find is that when people have a lot of fiber in their diet, and lots of diverse fibers in their diet, they have a lot of diversity, they tend to have greater activity and function of GLP-1, which is this gut peptide. And this gut peptide communicates and interacts with what are called G-coupled proteins in the gut. And these G-coupled proteins in the gut control how the pancreas releases insulin. And when these gut peptides are being produced in healthy quantities, and there's normal GLP-1 responses happening from gut bacteria, there's enhanced insulin coordination and function. And what that means is For example, if you eat a meal, your body will release insulin to get some of that glucose from the food into your cells so you have energy. Well, when these gut peptides are working well, you can have disruption in that pathway. Now, how does that relate to depression?
Okay.
Well, the
Think I'm done.
brain also has insulin receptors that are dramatically influenced by these pathways that are happening in the gut. So you can actually develop insulin resistance in the brain, and there are transport proteins in the brain that have been discovered
Castor oil.
to be directly impacted by our diet that are called GLU24, GLUT4 vesicles, that impact how our brain takes up glucose. So another model of depression is you can have someone who is having this like this insulin resistance pattern happening in their gut because their diet is so bad that they don't have the gut peptides to control how their brain takes up glucose. So the mechanism from their gut brain causing depression isn't just inflammation, it's just their glucose load. So typically this happens with people that are just not eating enough plant fibers. They have dysbiosis, the bacteria is not healthy, and then they lose the ability to release this GLP peptide. So the main mechanisms of how the gut can impact depression are the inflammatory mechanism through cytokines, through leaky gut, breach blood-brain barriers.
What I'm hearing from this guy just now is that animal products, and in particular flesh, like meat, is the cause of diabetes. Which is not the first time I've heard it. I heard it first on a movie called What the Health. I don't know if you ever heard of that movie. What the Health, interesting movie. He goes to try to connect with, it's a documentary, he goes to try to connect with all these medical fucking associations, like the American Medical Association, the Heart Association, the fucking Diabetes Association. He goes to them and he says, how come nobody is talking about the role of nutrition and how all these diseases are caused by the diet, in particular meat products? And that's a good movie. A lot of good research and interesting things. Hold on, let me go back. Looking young like your Ultimate Fighter days. Thank you. On a recovering athlete. I don't know what you're talking about. What the Health? Is that what you're talking about? The movie? Or are you talking about me, my body, in the Ultimate Fighter days? I'm 40, guys. I'm going to be 41 this year. I got to fight for a living. How's that? I'm an old man fighting. I'm just kidding. I shouldn't eat this cheese because my girlfriend's coming over. I don't want to be like digesting. What I'll do is I'll use the rest of the water here. Oh, the doc. I don't know, man. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. Are we talking about the same thing? I'm going to use this hot water. I'm going to make some lemon tea. I got to take my dragon breath, too. Thanks for the reminder. This is Yohimbe and Tribulus. Testosterone booster and circulation improvement. I take it before working out and before sex. Take a tiny bit less before sex because I don't want to be sweating. If I take 5 squirts at the gym, it gets me, you know, pumped up, and I'll be sweating in no time. But I just want to have, you know, high testosterone. Because I'm doing semen retention. On New Year's, I let one slip, and I was super duper depressed. and crying for a few days. And, if you look into semen retention, it has to do with, I'm a natural athlete, so my testosterone's not as young as not as powerful as it used to be. Like I was telling my friend the other day, because he doesn't practice semen retention, but he also doesn't have a lot of sex. So, um, or any sex, I don't know. Um, he says his girlfriend won't kiss him because of COVID, so he might not be getting any sexy time. But uh, because I don't do steroids, you know what I'm saying? I don't do hormone replacement therapy. My testosterone is not as high as it used to be. So he was saying, oh yeah, I used to be able to have sex several times a day. And, I also used to. But now I've come to the place where if I ejaculate, it really it really fucking just kills me. Honest to God, last time I did it, before this last time, like, so the second to last time I ejaculated, I got super paranoid. Something was going on in the politics, and I was like, holy fuck, it's the NWO, they're gonna kill everybody. Which may be true, but what could you do about that? I still gotta try to do what God put me here to do. So it's just, the way of thinking about things. Like, the world is the way it is, but it's our reaction. That's the important thing. So I have to be full strength. And testosterone, I think it can keep on building up over over 21 days. You get maxed out or something. I forgot what it is. But I'm not with my wife and kids anymore, RO. You know, I didn't know about this stuff back then. If I knew then what I know now, I would have, stayed with her through everything. But I was young, dumb. I yelled at her for giving the kids junk food, and you know, if like I said, if I knew then what I know now, I would have stayed with her and then at least been able to change her mind. But instead, I basically threw in the towel on the relationship. Um, I said I want a divorce. She came back the next day with papers. Literally the next day. So it's like it takes two to tango. But I'm just can only give you my side. You know, I uh, I haven't seen my kids in a couple of weeks because um, my mom is the court ordered supervisor now because um, because I yelled at the bitch in front of the kids. She got an order of protection against me. This happened about 10 years ago. She got an order of protection against me, and then I made a YouTube video complaining, and I made a bunch of YouTube videos, and people thought I was crazy anyway. But for those, I was complaining about head contact and brain trauma and the court system, and talking about the cunt of a judge. And anyway, the judge said that I broke the order of protection by making the YouTube videos because I was talking about the wife, I guess. It ended up being a Class B felony, which was contempt of court. This is family court. So the sheriffs called me. They said, "You're arrested. We're going to come get you. Where are you?" And I said, "Holy." Or I think I called my parents. Um, I might have called my parents, and they said the cops were looking for you. I forgot what happened, but I ended up talking to the sheriffs on the phone. I said, "Fuck that! I'm not going to jail for YouTube." and then I was on the run for a week. I was on the lam for like fucking 7 days. I left New York. I went to New Jersey, hiding out. Um, for some dumb reason, I came back, and they locked me up for 8 days, contempt of court. I pled out for something. I forgot what it was because, I was just scared. Like I said, jail was the worst thing that ever happened to me. So my dad had a lawyer, and they paid him like 5 grand, and then I ended up just pleading out. The guy didn't even fucking argue for me. But anyway, the uh, the situation is really heartbreaking with my kids. I'm a little bit more positive about it now because I know that I can only do what I can. But you know, I'd never vaccinated my kids. I didn't circumcise them. I only fed them health food. They were never sick when I was their primary care provider. And I'm just gonna end the stream after this. I'm gonna make my lemon tea. You can see that. But uh, last year in 2019, New York State made it a requirement to it made they took away religious exemption for vaccines. So I just noticed my son's behavior changing when they were given junk food. Honest to God, I saw it happen because I was with these kids for a couple of years, uh, 20 basically from sun up to sundown, only the food that I made them. And I got to know them. I got to know them as my best friends because we just literally spent all day together. When I went to work was when they were about to go to sleep. So she wasn't feeding them junk food behind my back. But then, as the first time, I think it was pizza or something. I don't remember, but my parents might have been involved. The first time they had junk food, I immediately noticed a change in their behavior. So it wasn't a good change. You know what I'm saying? It was like heartbreaking to me to see my perfect little angels be corrupted, and that's life. And there's nothing that's more important than life to me, the sanctity of life. And so I did yell at the bitch, and I'm still very upset about it. Um, but I'll get to your thing in a second. Uh, Still to this day, I had to bribe them to let me be their chef for 24 hours when I see them at my mom's place. So she's the court ordered supervisor. But I technically am only supposed to see them twice a month because they have a relationship with my ex-wife. They see the kids almost every weekend, so I just go try to get there. Like I haven't seen them in a couple weeks because my mom's sick. But other than that, I hopefully see them every weekend. Um, but they're at grandma's house, and she wants to make them fucking eggs so they could be an egg like her. You know, she doesn't. She doesn't. Let me just move on because it's just not going to get any better until I get rich, and then I can get my kids back. Because it's something that, as a parent, it it's more than just an issue of a person because these are my genes that have to carry on. So, it makes sense where this would be something that is the deepest part of me that I'm sharing with you. But anyway, I'm gonna make lemon tea now. Okay, I forgot where I got into all that. Wait, you had a thing here, RO? Sorry to hear about your family. RO's talking to me. When kids are involved, most women will make up some dumb allegation to help them keep the children. It's disgusting, but this is life. Sorry. Well, I gotta believe that everything happens for a reason, RO. I gotta believe that the ex-wife, was also sent by the Illuminati to get knocked up, to get my kid to get my kids to motivate me to do what I'm planning on doing, which is creating brand, Master Luki brand. You know, the League of Champions, something that is gonna make kids safer from head trauma, and safer from junk food. So that's why I believe it's like the benevolent Illuminati did that to me, and that takes the blame off of her for being a cunt, because she's actually helping me by motivating me. Although, you know, there's two sides of it. There's the hallucination that I'm going through, but then there's also the reality of it, where the kids actually have been harmed, and I've been traumatized. But then she's acting a certain way because her dad left abandoned his family. So she's like recreating that. I think it's called trauma reenactment. You know, and then I'm acting a certain way because of the trauma of my upbringing, and nobody's to blame. You don't have to apologize. You know, it is what it is. Like you said, people have gone through worse things than me. Although I can't experience that, so you know, I can only feel the way I feel about my own situation, and try to use that, you know, try to fucking use that in a positive way. Like, if I get my ass kicked in a fight, I try to learn. If somebody hits me, you know, I try to counter that or something. Text when you're ready. I'm ready. Mm-mm-mm. Dude, so horny. Holy. Last weekend was tough. I didn't get to see my kids. I didn't get to see my chick. You know, I've been cheated on by my wife, and that broke me. That broke me to women. And then my mom, she screwed me over because she's controlling. She tries to control me. So my mom and my ex-wife, they turned me off to women. You know, like as just like, you know, animals. I think of them as fucking animals. Wait, hold on. I was gonna go somewhere with that. Oh, generational trauma, right? I think, you know, I believe it's I believe it's you know, religions would call it sins of the father, but I believe it has to do with nutrition, that people have been consuming things that affect their brain function. But there's a lot of science, like really good parents, the newer generations of parents, they don't do punishing, they do like positive motivation. Like, imagine fucking Tony Robbins' kids, how amazing, you know, what their relationship is like. But, glad you have a partner now. Yeah, well, see, the thing is, I'm kind of like, oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, last weekend she didn't come over last weekend. She had an excuse, which, you know, I can see how it maybe is true, but then also I can see how, like, if I was, I had another shirt. What the hell? Oh, I didn't get through my other shirt. There's two shirts in here. I'm just suspicious, you know, because I got cheated on. I'm suspicious, but she's coming over now, so it is what it is. I think she's CIA. Um, Sent to kind of, be my sexual partner. Basically, the CIA has um, factions, or I don't know, departments that are occult, influenced by occult teachings, and they have occult practices like semen retention. Semen retention is an ancient practice that gives the man powers. So there's a great YouTuber, Robert Sepper, Sepper, Robert Sepper, Sepehr. He had a video about it. He's talking about these ancient tantric rituals. Tantra being a study of energy. And there's white tantra and there's black tantra, and most of it has to do with sex. But there's different parts of the world, so they have different names. But the ritual, or the ceremony, whatever you want to call it, the practice, the technique is the man not ejaculating. And the Chinese method that I've learned a little bit about is for every 100 female orgasms, the man can ejaculate once. I've also heard that it's okay to do it once a season. So that's like what, 4 times a year. Um, I did it on New Year's. Just like what happened with me on Christmas when I had the almond butter and I got sick. It was something that I had a suspicion about. It wasn't like all of a sudden. It was gradual that I came to the realization, that I'm allergic to almonds, and in particular almond butter, because it's so concentrated. It's something I can't have anymore. It's not like I'm not gonna just inhale the fumes and then I'm gonna get sick, but I just can't eat almond butter because I end up eating too much. And anyway, um, ejaculated on New Year's, and it really fucking affected me bad. So, um, as a as a CIA agent, she would be kind of like a sexy spy, and her mission is to be my sexual partner, so that I can practice semen retention, where the testosterone, or whatever, the male energy is built up and built up and built up, but not shot out, so that it gets stronger every time. um, and she is half half animal, so she says things that and she does things that it's like gets me close to the edge. But also, I've trained her, or she knows when to stop if I say stop. I mean, she won't admit this, but this is just my theory. She says she cares about me and stuff, and she wants me to be happy. So she doesn't. She says she doesn't want me to come if it's gonna make me depressed. But she does want me to otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Good times, good times. Very good times. The best. Best I ever had. Am I allowed to say this shit on YouTube? FB! in the house. Let's go. I got my booty call coming over. I'm gonna have some tea. This is probably the fourth brew of this yerba mate. It's not strong, but it's still got some kick to it. Some caffeine. Yerba mate you can brew over and over and over again all day. I think you can supposedly brew it like 5 times. So I'll probably pour it out after this, but I don't really want to be super caffeinated, do I? I think I'm just gonna have my dragon's breath, my dragon's mist concoction, which is the testosterone booster. Let that sit a little bit. You know what I can also do is while I got the stream going, I'll put a little wax in my mustache. You know what? Fuck it. It's not long enough to curl yet anyway, I don't think. Let me see. I have to shave the middle too, right? For the I'll do that next time. I'll shave a little bit here for the V for Vendetta look, you know? I'm a renegade, a rebel, an icon. What happened? Hello? Let's see, V for Vendetta? No, actually that's connected there in the middle. Alright, so I gotta do it like towards the lips.
Which then allows compounds to cross the brain and turn on glial cells, and then these blood sugar regulation pathways. Now, in the course that we put together, Gut Health Solving the Puzzle, I have an entire section on the gut brain in detail, and I can show you diagrams and illustrations of these things and how these things work in more detail, and then how we clinically apply them. But ultimately, the solution comes into like fixing your gut. And one of the things to always consider if you're constantly dealing with fatigue, depression issues,
she's bringing the skirt. I got it for Christmas. Ha! Got me for Christmas.
And fixing your gut is simply taking a probiotic. They've also done studies in animals where they've used different strains of probiotics to see if
this is interesting
mood behavior in animals. And what they find is that if they can see changes in the gut microbiome in relation to mood, and these changes in relation to mood can have impact on brain, but they haven't found like a probiotic that's always good for one person or another person. Okay,
I gotta end it there. But once I heard that, I immediately placed an order with Linda from Jub's Longevity. She sells all of Jub's probiotics and things. All of Jub's recommended, whole food vitamin mineral complexes, plant-based formulas, all his medical formulas. As soon as I heard what he said about the probiotics, I said, holy shit. What he said was that they've done these studies, but they haven't figured out one probiotic that's helpful for everybody. So I said, holy fuck. Jub has a full spectrum probiotic that nobody else has. That's called a life colloid. It's a full spectrum probiotic. That means it has everything. Every probiotic strain is in Jub's life colloid. So I immediately placed an order with Linda. I got 1 pack for me and 1 pack to sell. On her website, they're $122 for a pack. So I get 40% off. I spent $160, and um, I'm going to sell it for $100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to vlog once I get it. Because if you've been following me or not, I've started to get into fasting for a couple of reasons. I won't go into the whole thing, but basically, I'm not eating anything starting probably tomorrow night. And what I'm going to do is carry on my regular activities of training, and I'm building my brand. I'll be drinking tea. That's about it. And having the Life Colloid probiotic. So I'll use the vlog, and I'll do pictures to make a testimonial to sell that product, the Life Colloid, on my website. And I've tried to do it before, but you can't just expect overnight success. So I'm gonna do it again. This time I'm gonna probably do it a little better, because it would make sense, that each time I get better at it. So I'll have hopefully a nice testimonial. I'll fucking be able to start selling this probiotic, and I'll go over the rest of this video. But there were a couple of points when I was listening to it. I was like, oh, that would be good for people to know. But I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do that now. I don't think. Let me see. Hold on. And let me know when you get here. My door is broken. Okay, so she'll let me know when she gets here, and then I'll end the stream. Let's see what he's saying here.
So this model of trying to treat the the brain through the gut isn't going to be as simple as everyone needs to just eat more fiber and eat take a probiotic. That is not how this works. And
you have to do cleansing.
Of trying to really figure out what's happening with someone's digestive system and gut comes in, and this is one of the reasons why we put together the online program to teach people from chewing all the way down from saliva production.
I got to show you this guy, because this guy is selling you an online program for health.
Enzyme release to pancreatic enzyme release to gallbladder function to small intestine function to microvilli function to function that take place in the colon with electrolytes. All the way down.
That fat fucking bastard is going to teach you about health.
And how do you manage them? And how does the brain and gut interrelate to each other?
My new mouse pad, by the way.
So those are the main things I have here.
2x3.
Take some questions and try to answer people's questions that relate to this topic. But if you, like I said before, check out Dr. K News, and you can get more information about that gut health puzzle. Okay. Let me try to look here.
Yeah, it's a puzzle because you don't know what the fuck you're doing, buddy. Not a puzzle to me. It's a mission! A mission!
Between headaches and
I've been practicing singing, by the way.
There could be some connection between the gut and headaches as well. So
I'm going to have to practice after she leaves.
That showed people that have gluten sensitivity.
I'm on a 30-day program. I have to practice every day. If I don't practice one day, they said you have to start all over again.
Can then cause headaches, and then they can cause.
I'm trying to learn how to do metal singing.
Serotonergic responses. And the food sensitivity.
And then I want to put it over trap music.
Mechanisms related to how foods cause.
Think of how
and they're not always an immune response. So there's like serotonergic pathways, there's neurological responses that take place, there's vascular responses that take place.
Think of how like when grunge came out, it was like kind of like a new genre, right? So I was a fan, but I think the hot thing now Nah, RO, I'm sorry, bro. Um, Now, look, there will be other girls. Whether or not we stay together forever, um, I believe that the alpha male has a stable. The ancient Taoist masters used to go to the brothel and have sex with every and ravage every or pleasure or whatever get um, with everyone in there and leave without ejaculating. Oh, the Robert Sepper video, check him out. He talks about the king of Thailand that apparently when COVID started, he sequestered himself with 100 concubines. How's that? Some people don't want to be on camera, they want their lives to be private. So when I go on tour, she's not coming. So there'll be hot chicks on camera, okay? And I have seriously considered, and I haven't decided not to make educational pornography where I teach semen retention. So it's possible that I might make porn and have sex with hot girls on camera. And I have a really cool, interesting brand for that, which I can't really reveal because I don't want somebody to steal it. It's such a good idea. But it involves my scoring system for MMA. And I'll just leave it at that. Because I already spoke to people about that. I mean, I already spoke online about my scoring system. So, but it's all part of the brand. I want to be family friendly, but I also don't want to leave any market untouched. I want to own all the markets. So I think that's it could be done in a responsible way. Teach teenagers to have. I gotta go.